3 that we are doing this from home and quite used to working from home now. And next has started a Facebook page about work from home. So please join that and tell us how you're doing at home. Some videos and what kind of work that you're doing from home. And I'm sure everyone is very busy at home and working from home, a little frustrated sometimes. But I think if you're expecting November, December world again, it will not come through. It will be a new world. And based on what we hear so far, I think things might be like this till mid-April. So best thing is to set our expectations right and not always think next Monday will be okay. It's not going to be okay. Mainly because of a minority of very irresponsible people. But the majority is very good, I thought. They're very responsible, and Sri Lanka has been taken as a very good example. If you look at Italy has really gone out of control, Spain and UK, and now US, especially New York and New Orleans. So I think we are lucky that things are a little bit better here. So let's make the most of it. Very important to work out during this time. I hope you guys are a little bit active at home. I got a few gym equipment, some weights, and some and started working out from home. So it feels very good. So try and do that. I asked the same question in the previous class, and the response was 90% of them are helping 90% of the time with housework, and they're helping their spouses. So 90% of the time. So I was thinking what type of good people we have in our class, that 90% of the time they help their spouses. So which is pretty good. So that means you can even discuss the slot assignment with your spouse, especially the change management part. You can discuss with your spouse and see whether he or she has a different opinion about your change management assignment. Yeah. So pretty exciting times, I thought. And set expectations right, get back to basics, running behind vegetable trucks. And I think, but I really feel bad for the daily wage earners. So if some of the daily wage earners are around you, make sure you help them a little bit, get them some support to buy some food, dry rations during this time to get through. Because rather than sometimes organizing and helping widespread, if we can look after people around us, that can really help. Yeah. So some very basic opening thoughts. We'll open up and also I think we have 1.5 hours today. So we will do the session and then spend about maybe 20 minutes about assignment again, so that you can get some ideas. Okay, so coming back to where we are, we always start our class with this slide. So we have done up to session 7. All right, we have done up to session 7, And so today we are doing session 8. Now, if you see, all these sessions are about, up to session 7 is about leadership. Is about leadership, right? So, and these 2 sessions are about change and transition. This is about change and transition. So these are the 2 big items in our module. What we have is strategic leadership and organizational transformation. So this is the subject that we have, and up to now we have done up to session 7, that is about leadership, and this is our part 1 of our assignment, and this is the part 2 of our assignment. So today we are venturing into the part 2 of our assignment, and I'm going to connect this class, today's class, to the assignment often, and talk about change and transition as we go through. So that's a very brief introduction to today's class. So in terms of the time that we are spending, the 1.5 hours, let's spend about the next 1 hour. We've already spent 10 minutes, so next 1 hour on the module managing organizational change. Then spend about another 20 minutes on the assignment and take some questions and see where everyone is on the assignment. Yep, so sounds like a good plan, at least to me. And so let's see what we have today. So moving to session 8, let's look at session 8. We have quite a few slides today, unlike other days, so let's try and go through that, and then tell us if you have any questions or any comments. We'll take it in the last 20 minutes. So, okay, I need to go back and come. Okay. Right, we are good. So managing organizational change. Now, look at this picture, right? When we talk about managing organizational change, what do we see in these 2 pictures, right? Here, in this first picture on your left-hand side, the water is very calm, and there is a team here, and there seems to be somebody like a leader here, and they seem to be going on this direction, and they're rowing, right? So that's what we see in this picture. But if you look at the second picture, you can hardly see who's there. You can hardly see who's there, and it's very difficult to identify who is the leader here. And it seems like very turbulent waters, right? Very turbulent waters, and pretty tough environment. And here, if you see, visibility is very good. Here, visibility is completely very low, and you don't know what will happen in the next minute. So, so as we look at how do we adapt to this new situation, and to, if you want to survive and prosper, right? Today, what we have is, we don't have this situation today. The situation we have is very much like this, right? Very much like this. And if we kind of reflect a little bit, right, uh, about what's happening now. Now, normally, as a company, we get ready for Heineken. We get ready for 4 crisis situations. One is no access to office or brewery, our factory. There could be a situation where uh, access to office or brewery can be prevented for many reasons. Number 2, if we have to do a product recall, that means if something goes wrong with the product, how do we do a product recall? That's a crisis. Number 3, terrorist attack or civil unrest. Civil unrest. And number 4, contagious disease. Now, when you think of these 4, as a company, we have been getting ready for basically BCP, business continuity planning, for these 4 types of crisis. And it was funny, in the last 12 months, we have faced both these situations. Last April, we had the Easter attack. Now this January, February, March, we have this contagious disease. In fact, when we were doing BCP and getting ready for these 4 situations, people generally laugh. People generally laugh and say, these will never happen. These will never happen. And today, it is a reality. And out of 4 situations, we have already faced 2 of them. So this is the kind of world that we are facing. And generally, how do companies face risk? How do companies face this uncertainty? Generally, companies face these things through 4 levels of uh, 4 levels of uh, 4 levels of defense. The first level of defense is SOP, standard operating procedure. With standard operating procedure, we try to uh, do things in a proper way so that we don't open ourselves to risk. Then we look at audit, both internal audit and external audit, as the next level so that they can highlight any gaps in our company. So first is standard operating procedure, how things should be done in the company. Second one is audit, how we can identify certain gaps and correct our standard operating practice. Third one is BCP, business continuity planning, what happens in a crisis situation. The last level of defense is insurance. If something goes terribly wrong, can we claim insurance to safeguard ourselves? So companies look at 4 levels of defense. And currently, as we speak, we are in this level of defense. And companies who have BCP are looking at how can we go through this crisis. And the funny thing is, everything is becoming irrelevant. Everything is becoming invalid today. Now look at the world powers. What do they depend on? What has happened to traditional warfare? Ships. You look at ships, planes, artillery, armies. This traditional warfare has become completely redundant or completely outdated in the face of new uncertainties. And I mean, it's a common cold that's killing people today and brought the entire world to a new, uh, to their knees, right? And to a complete halt. Places like New York City doesn't sleep, right? But today it's without anyone. And who thought that we can go for a shutdown for 3 months, 2 weeks, complete shutdown, and people will look for basic vegetables and groceries and fish and food. So it's completely turning upside down, and the traditional things are becoming irrelevant. So in that context, this new change is very relevant to us. And we are putting out a video today, next campus. You will see that coming to you. Companies are going to change completely, and they're going to look at new ways of working. Everyone got the taste of working from home and asking, can some people work from home? Some companies already calculated cost per employee per day for coming to work. And some companies are wondering, do we need all these employees? Can we survive with 20% less? Right? So all these changes will come, and the question is, are we ready for this change? Are we equipped with a new skill set? Do we need to really upskill and reskill ourselves in this new world? So I think you're in a very good position in that. You're going through a MBA and getting yourself reskilled and upskilled, and that will be very important come 2021. And what we see is what was supposed to happen in 2025 and beyond might happen in 2021. So look for it, and look for that kind of change as we go through. So okay, let's open this. So this, I thought this slide is very pertinent and very timely today when we talk about change. Now, in your assignment, look at the change. What is that change? Don't focus on a change like this. Don't focus on a change like this. Try and focus on a change like this, which had a big impact on the company. Now let's look at this. Why do organizations change? Sometimes the change comes from within. You have innovated a new product, or a competitor has innovated a new product, right? So innovation drives a lot of change, right? Innovation within the company or outside the company. Even companies like Unilever, those who are in basic staple food, Hemas, right? Procter and Gamble is innovating a lot. And if you look at the tech space, companies like Oppo, companies like Samsung, companies like Hitachi, right? Apple, they're all innovating, right? The other thing is, when you think about change, look at whether it's a transformational change or an incremental change. Incremental changes are small step changes that happens. But a transformational change is how things completely change the way we work. We want you to focus on a bit of a transformational change. Small incremental change may not be felt by employees too much, but think of a transformational change. And the other thing is, if you take a company, change can be top down or bottom up. Top down is there could be a management change or change in company strategy, vision, business focus, all of these things. can be a bottom-up exercise also, what people here feel about the company. Major change because of trade union action. Major change because how people perceive the company in safety standards, or some big change that happens at operational level, right? Uh, Countries like France are quite used to this whole union issues, and they dictate how the company work, right? So change can be both top down or bottom up, and mention this in your assignment. Is it a top down change or a bottom up change? Why do you say that? And focus on on a transformational change. So the need for change, companies want to run faster, right? Companies always have this uh, gap they want to close, right? And companies want to do continuous improvement in the way they work, right? Uh, there is three types of change. Episodic change, that means you're changing episodes. Continuous change is like incremental change. Disruptive change is completely the way you work is changed completely. This is not an episode. Episode is various phases of change, going from phases of change. Continuous change is very, very small changes that people don't realize, but small changes happen, and that's a normal routine operations of a company. Disruptive change can be a complete change in the business. A good example is IBM. They gave up manufacturing laptops. They gave it to Lenovo and became a innovations company totally, right? So that's a big change. So think of a change like episodic change or a disruptive change that your company is going through. That's why we said don't focus on these minor, small changes. So as we say, change is the norm today, and don't expect November, December to come back again. Now, if you see a country like Sri Lanka has gone through a massive change in the last 12 months, terrorist attack and a contagious disease. This will trigger how companies operate, how the society operates, how the government operates. And in fact, it's not only Sri Lanka, the entire world. So there's this guy called Kurt Lewin, came with this model of change. In fact, these kind of models are being challenged today uh, because they came with this model during change was very, very small or very rare, very infrequent. So what he said is, if you're doing a change, first of all, unfreeze everyone. That means make employees ready for the change. Then make the change and refreeze the way you want. Look at this, right? Make sure they unfreeze, then you make the change and then come with the final version. So these were different models, but still these can be used if you're looking at a episodic change in your company, if you're looking at maybe moving office to another location, going to a new way of working in the company, an ERP implementation. Still, some of these Kurt Levin's model of unfreeze, change, refreeze can be used in companies. But the reality today is we are living in this kind of fluid state all the time, in most cases, right? We don't have time to refreeze again. We don't have time to unfreeze. But in certain situations, these may be possible. Then there's this Kotter's transformation model, John Kotter. Quite a popular model, I would say, Kotter's model. People keep changing about Kotter's model, change model. And Kotter says it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 steps, right? 8 steps. And first is create a sense of urgency. That means create a situation, and some people call it create some uneasiness, create a sense of urgency, why we should change. Then build a guiding coalition. Uh, that means look at a team who can support this change, some change agents, and form a vision and initiatives. What will be the end state like? What is this change like? Come with a change. And get more people to volunteer who can guide through this change, talk to some opinion leaders who can support you in this change. Then enable the change, uh, remove some barriers for change. There are some barriers sometimes for change, remove them. Celebrate short-term wins. Very important to celebrate short-term wins so that the whole momentum goes. Then accelerate your change, and then finally complete institutionalize the change. Uh, so compared to living, this has more steps in the change. I will tell you a little bit of details about this change. Last year, in 2019, we came up with a new strategy for the company. In 2019, we came up with a new strategy for the company. And we realized if we have to execute this strategy, we need to right size the company, right? We need to right size the company. So we had about 306 employees. We want to bring it down to 238, right? We want to bring it to 238. So massive reduction, if I'm not mistaken, this is about 28% reduction. But when you look at 28% reduction, we want to add some people also. So finally, the reduction came to 22% because we had to recruit some more people whom we needed in terms of new skill sets. So we want to reduce these people across the company. We reduced 81 people across the company. We have a very strong trade union linked to JVP. Intercompany union, and we were reducing people across the pyramid, not only at the bottom level, across the pyramid, managers, executives, shop floor workers, everyone. So we kind of used this Kotter's model there, and we decided, okay, what is the sense of urgency if we have to implement the new strategy? We need to do this Project Horizon, reducing 81 people. Coalition is our management team. We worked with the management team, and we said, Project Horizon, how does it look like, and what is the end game like? And we had a plan. Actually, we had a plan to launch it on 26 September and complete it by 15th November. And the plan was to reduce 81 people in the company. We got some extra people because only the management team couldn't do it. So we got the second level engaged in this. So the team from 5 management team members became about 17 people. So they could get ready for an emergency, they could talk to other people, right? Then we thought, okay, people, if they have to go out of the company, we need to remove barriers. What's the barrier for people to go out of the company? How do they live? How do they manage their livelihood? So we came up with a voluntary separation scheme and a certain payout. And that payout was better than the government TEVA formulation. And we came with this payout scheme. Those who have stayed in the company for a longer time got a better payout than the others. Then, now we went on 26 September, we went and launched this campaign and said, this is our new strategy. Therefore, we need to right size the company, and this is our project, and this is how it's going to work. And believe me, for 2 weeks, no one came forward. For 2 weeks, no one came forward. Complete dead silence in the company. Dead silence in the company. So we had to proactively talk to groups, talk to people, communicate, and communicate why we are doing this, what's the benefit for them, then we had to draw the new org structure in the company. That was the trigger. We needed to draw the new org structure in the company. Then people realized who's in and who's out. And then they started coming and engaging with us. And one day, after speaking to people, 9 people came forward. 9 people came forward and said, okay, if you give the money today, I will go. So as a management team, we decided, okay, we're going to cut the checks today. This discussion finished at 5 o'clock, and the employees were in Mawatagama. So our HR director was in Mawatagama. She called and said, if you can get the checks by 11 o'clock in the night today, I can close this. So we worked in the night, 7:30 by the time we got the checks out, and we dispatched a person from Colombo to go to Mawatagama, and that person reached Mawatagama at 11:30. And these 9 employees stayed at the brewery till 11:30 to get their checks. That was the start, the early win. When next morning, when people knew that 9 people have taken, the whole thing accelerated. And then through month of October, people came forward, and finally we had to close saying, okay, that's enough. We don't want any more. And we achieved the 81 people. We achieved the 81 people and paid the money. Then finally, our deadline was 15th November. On 13th and 14th of November, we had 2 farewell parties as planned and said goodbye to people who left from head office and from the brewery. In 2 locations, we had parties. And then we said, okay, now Project Horizon is over. This is the new change in the company, new way of working, institutionalize the change. So that's the kind of change that you go through, and how you can use the quarters model as a framework. So when you look at the change in your company, the change that you're talking about, bring theories like Kotter or Levin and say, okay, I think the company used this approach, or I think the company used this approach, but they didn't have this piece. They didn't have this piece. That's why the change failed. Or they had these pieces and that's why it succeeded, right? There is, although they didn't use Kotter's model, there is evidence that the management used some of these things. So bring the theory and compare and say the change plan. Or if you're looking at a future change plan, say how this is the plan that they have, but it seems like these are some of the gaps that they have there, and therefore these they can work on. So bring some theory and talk about that change. Although we look at it, is the change very simple? Now look at the need for change. I thought this is a very good framework for you to look at your assignment also, because your change is about this area, right? There is a need for change, then the change initiative, then the implementation of change. Look at all these three things, and when you look at the need for change, see whether it is driven by external environment, COVID-19, or is it driven by some competitive activity, competition, them launching a new product, them doing any changes? Or is this driven internally because of a company strategy change or company's vision change, restructuring of the company? So check whether your change is driven externally, external factors, competition, or some internal change. Very important to look at that. And then establish, okay, this is why we wanted to change, and this is our change initiative, and this is how we implemented or implementing, or how it will implement into the future. Right? So focus on this. I thought this slide is a very important slide which you can think or you can use when you're doing your assignment. I think metaphors for change, we looked at this compared to rowing in a very calm river. Today's change is about this. Lack of stability, lack of predictability, chaos, and its constant change. So we have moved from this kind of change to this type of change. Okay. Then there is old saying: if something is not broken, don't fix it. This guy is Tom Peters. There is this famous book in 1984 that came out, In Search of Excellence. Tom Peters and Robert Waterman. They, after the oil crisis in the late 70s, they went and saw whether there was any excellence left in the US. And they came with, I think, 8 companies and said these were the 8 excellent companies who went through this change. One of the lessons there was, before it hits you, before the change it hits you, when you're doing well, make the changes. I think this is very relevant for all of us. Everyone, all of us have these cycles. All of us have these cycles. Now, when you have this cycle, this could be career, this could be health, anything. When should you change? A lot of people try to change here. Too late. After you get a heart attack, doctor tells you you have to run, otherwise you die, right? But then you have got a heart attack already, right? Then you can't run, actually you can only walk. This is a very bad time to look for a job. You need to look for a job here. when you're doing your best. But do people look for jobs or do people exercise at this time? No. That time, people are very, very comfortable. Top of the world. You think nothing can bring me down. Should I do a qualification? No, I don't need to do it. I'm doing pretty well in my company. My career is superb, and they don't know it can go like this. So you need to do all the changes, all the development when you're doing well, right? Make changes, because if you have like this, if you change here, it takes a long time again to replicate this. But if you can take the change when you're doing well, you can keep riding the wave all the time, and that's a good thing to do. So don't say, if something is not broken, leave it alone. If something is not broken, it's time to really disrupt. The biggest company on earth for men's shaving, Gillette has very few competitors. Actually, they hardly have any competition. That's because Gillette says our competition is ourselves. They disrupt their own products before someone else does. The 2 blades, Bluetooth, 3 blades, 4 blades, they call it different names, and Mark 3, and then they come with some other name. Then they have 5 blades. When you keep it here, it kind of shaves you, right? And they bring gel and lots of stuff, and they kill their own products, right? So that's a super example of how they keep up before someone else disrupts. So looking at this, okay, we are a little stuck here. Okay, so 3 categories of change: structural change in the company, technological change, and people change, right? So, but all these changes, there is an impact from people. Restructuring of a company, how do people feel? Ways of working in a company, how do people feel about this? So look at that, and in this assignment, we are more focused on, because of these changes, what is happening to people? What's happening to their attitudes, expectations, and perceptions? That's what we are more focused on, right? So we discussed about change and said there is incremental change and transformation change. So we want you to focus more on transformational change. Okay. Initiating change, right? We discussed about that here a little bit, initiating change, right? So therefore, when you initiate change, what is the change that you're looking for, right? And what is the gap of change that we look for? So I want to focus a little bit here. What is change and what is transition? I think we need to separate these two aspects. Very important to understand, change happens outside. Change happens outside of us. Here is the person. Change happens outside. But the transition is internal. Transition is what goes within us, right? Now look at this. Change can be because of some events, COVID-19, recession, uh, technological change, some situation changes, weather, seasons, right? Companies want to change strategy, right? And change is generally happens fast, and change wants results faster. But transition is what we experience within us, right? Uh, Change is something within us and very much psychological. It's a process, right? Uh, it's not very fast. It's a process, both negative and positive emotion, and pretty slow, relatively slow. Company comes and says, uh, from next month, we are moving to a new office. We are relocating from World Trade Center to Batramulla. Wow. We are relocating from World Trade Center to Vattala because after COVID-19, cost is too much now. Our business has dropped 20%. So we are relocating our office to a normal building in Vattala. And everyone get ready because pack by end of this month, 1st of May, we are changing to the new place. Now, people are thinking, okay, that's a change quite fast. And CEO has a town hall session and explains to everyone why it's happening and ask them, do you have any questions to ask me? Yep, okay, we're changing fast, very good, top, super. And thank you very much for understanding this change very well. I know you will understand this. And then employees are starting to think about it. How do I travel to work? I always bring my kid to St. Joseph's and then I go to office. I come with my husband or with my wife and she works in Fort. What does this mean to me? How can I tell my family that I'm working in Vattala? I had so much pride working in World Trade Center. And during lunchtime, I can come down to third floor and watch other people, right, who walk past. A lot of talent, a lot of interaction, a lot of social status working in World Trade Center. Now I have to tell my family that I'm working in Vattala of some warehouse. What's going to happen to me here, right? What's going to happen to my family routine? How do I explain to my kids saying I can't drop you every day at school, but you need to now take the school van? Now, these are the kind of emotions that people go through during this transition, and it's a very slow process that people will have to get used to, and something that is pretty slow, right? And that there comes resistance to change. Why? Because in their minds there is a lot of uncertainty now, right? There is a lot of uncertainty, right? uh, this question goes in everyone's mind. What does this mean to me? What does this mean to me? People during our right sizing exercise came and cried with me and said, I understand this change fully, but how can I go and tell this to my kids saying I don't have a job from next month? And some of them came and said, I have worked for 20 years for this company and then I know I can't find a job outside. What does this mean to my family, right? Uh, because everyone, this is where they are. And there is fear of personal loss, right? This is where organizations never think about what does it mean to people, right? What does it mean to people? And people are wondering, why do they resist change so much? I mean, why can't they understand this? Why we want to change? Lack of understanding. There is a lot of distrust, lack of information about future. I have a super office overlooking the Indian Ocean. What happens to me when I go to Vattala? Should I sit with everyone or should I get my room? I mean, you don't believe how people are so focused on small things like my desk, my laptop, my mobile phone. Uh, they might assess the situation differently. Okay, you're saying ERP system, but what will happen to me? I'll lose my job here because I'm not good in computers. Therefore, what's going to happen to me? So I want you all to bring in your assignment this from the employee perspective. What is going on in their mind? What is going on? Answer this question. What is this uncertainty they are worried about? And what type of resistance did they show? Sometimes it's active, sometimes it's passive. Sometimes the resistance is above board, sometimes resistance is invisible, and most of the time resistance is invisible. I want you all to focus more on those aspects than hard facts. What did the employees think? What does this mean for me? And what is their uncertainty, right? And I like this picture a lot. Who wants to change? Everyone wants to change, right? Who wants change? Everyone wants change. We are super happy for change, right? But who wants to change? No one wants to change. No one wants to change, right? When you ask this question, there is no one in the audience, right? So, so most of the change management initiatives fail. Actually, there is super ERP solutions, and I think about 35% of ERP implementations fail, not because this ERP solution is bad, because implementation is bad. There is no change management. In most big changes in companies, what is lacking is change management. No one talks about, do we have a change management plan, CMP, in place when you do this? And poor change management is very badly handled, and it increases more resistance from employees, right? And employees say it was handled very badly, right? So these are the reasons a lot of change initiatives fail. And I like this Bridger's model, right? Bridger's model. Every transition, we said it is inside. Transition is internal. Transition is internal. When there is a change, always there is an ending. We need to end for us to begin. That's a very important statement. We need to end things so that we can begin. If you don't end, you will never begin. But lots of people are only focused on this new beginning They don't understand the ending. And look at this picture. When you're in point one, there is more ending. Neutral zone is little and the new beginning is little, right? When you're in situation 2, time period 2, there is still residue of ending, big neutral zone, and there is a new beginning a little bit. And when you come to 3, lot of new beginning, but still there is a neutral zone and there is a residue of the old times. I'll explain this in few examples. Think about someone dying. Why do they say somebody missing and then having a funeral? People opt for a funeral than somebody going missing. Why is that? When somebody goes missing, there is no ending. In all our cultures, a transition, a change like death happens to someone and we go through a transition. And culturally, there is a process. Culturally, there is a transition process. Here is the ending. There is death happening. So therefore, we have a funeral. And after 7 days, after 40 days, after whatever time, there are some rituals that happen. And ending also, there are some rituals happen. Then people go through this neutral zone. Okay, how do I deal with this? This whole thing. So you bring priests, you have a requiem mask, you have a service, right? You have bana, all of that. And then you come to the new beginning. That's how we culturally transition a tragic event like death. But just imagine somebody is missing. You haven't seen the body. I can't end. I can't have a funeral. I can't have a service. Everything is open and I am in a situation where I can't have a new beginning. I can't close his bank accounts. I can't do things and I can't have a new beginning. Everything is in a state of fluidity. So we need to manage this neutral zone in a change. Look at this neutral zone. Unclear between phases, silence, resisting change, lot of anxiety, productivity down, employees overburdened, motivation down, all weaknesses come, people gossip, people try to discuss things in the toilet. They don't know what's happening. So we need to manage this neutral zone if you want a new beginning. Now, this is what I want you all to focus on. Go and check for Bridger's model. Look at how the company handled the ending, neutral zone, and the new beginning. Did they do well? These T1, T2, T3 time periods, especially if the change is something in the past, you can really look at T1, T2, and T3. If it is currently happening and if you're in T2 or something, you can discuss about how T1, T2 is and how should T3 handle. But if you're thinking of a future change, you can talk about how T1, T2, and T3 should be handled all together, right? So when you look at this, change is very fast. And with change, with this ending, what comes? Denial, shock, anger, frustration, ambivalence. These are the kind of emotions that come through. And unless these are addressed in people, unless you sympathize with these, you can't take people through a change. Superficially, they will show, but they are not really going through it. Comes to the neutral zone, and when you pass the neutral zone, enthusiasm, hope, acceptance, skepticism, after the horizon was over, it was changing. People, union leader called and told me, "Sir, I want to go home. It's enough for me now. I think I understand what you're doing. I think you need a new organization. I'm not part of that new organization." People who resisted got up in meetings and spoke and said, "We know how hard it is for all the employees, but we know why this is. So we are going to contribute to the company's new journey in a new way." Enthusiasm, hope, acceptance, still skeptical. After that, they kept asking, "Is there a horizon 2? Is there a layoff 2?" And we had to say, "No, there's nothing like that. This is gone. It's in the past." I had to bring my boss down from Singapore and get him to tell people there is no second layoff plan, because there is some skepticism in people. This is what I want you to bring in the uh, second section, assignment part 2. And did the company practice these values? Safety, professionalism, transparency, communication, fairness. We let 81 people go, 81 people, or 27% of the company. Not a single person pointed a finger at me or the management team and said, "How you selected people were unfair." Not a single one. So fairness is very important. Actually, I want to show a video on fairness. Did I show a video about monkeys? No? Or did I show you that? I didn't show. Can somebody put a text on this thing? Did I show you a video about monkeys? No, right? No. Okay, I get a response. 2, saying, can't change the spouse. Okay, I didn't see that. Okay, no. Yeah. Massive no coming from the class. Got it. Let's see whether I can show you monkeys. Oh, okay. Let me go out a little bit. I think I can play it off this.
So, you get started maybe. So, final experiment.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen, share my desktop. and play this. Can you see my desktop, everyone? A black desktop?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So, so this is a test, or this is a test that was done with these cappuccino monkeys, right? Capuchin monkeys, I think. Yes, right. Just watch this video and we'll have a chat afterwards.
So a final experiment that I want to mention to you is our fairness study. And so this became a very famous study, and there's now many more, because after we did this about 10 years ago, it became very well known. And we did that originally with capuchin monkeys, and I'm going to show you the first experiment that we did. It has now been done with dogs, and with birds, and with chimpanzees. But with Sarah Brosnan, we started out with capuchin monkeys. So what we did is we put two capuchin monkeys side by side. Again, these animals, they live in a group. They know each other. We take them out of the group, put them in a test chamber. And there's a very simple task that they need to do. And if you give both of them cucumber for the task, the two monkeys side by side, they're perfectly willing to do this 25 times in a row. So cucumber, even though it's really only water in my opinion, but cucumber is perfectly fine for them. Now, if you give the partner grapes, the food preferences of my capuchin monkeys correspond exactly with the prices in the supermarket. And so if you give them grapes, that's a far better food, then you create inequity between them. So that's the experiment we did. Recently, we videotaped it with new monkeys who had never done the task, thinking that maybe they would have a stronger reaction, and that turned out to be right. The one on the left is the monkey who gets cucumber. The one on the right is the one who gets grapes. The one who gets cucumber, note that the first piece of cucumber is perfectly fine. The first piece she eats. Then she sees the other one getting grape, and you will see what happens. So she gives a rock to us, that's the task. And we give her a piece of cucumber and she eats it. The other one needs to give a rock to us. And that's what she does. And she gets a grape. And she eats it. The other one sees that. She gives a rock to us now, gets again cucumber. She tests the rock now against the wall. She needs to give it to us. And she gets cucumber again. So this is basically the Wall Street protest that you see here.
Okay, so so that's basically about so it's that whole TED Talks or that experiment with cappuccino monkeys is about this fairness. Everyone, I think this is not a learned thing. It is in our system to call out. Even small children will say this, and you wonder where they learned it from. They say, it's not fair. This is in humans, in animals. This is a very, this is something that we are born with, that we look for fairness. That we look for fairness. And in another story, I'll tell it very fast. A professional in US, it's left-hand drive, so you can turn to left-hand side without having signals. And so this guy turns on a crossroad. He turns left, and the cops stopped him And cop said, no, this is a special one because there are signal lights. You went through the red light. And this guy says, look, I'm a professional, I'm a doctor. I didn't go through, it was green, that's what I went through, right? And he refuses to accept the fine, the ticket, and he tells, go to courts. I'll come to courts and fight this out. Because principally he is saying, I'm right. So this was taken up in courts. And in courts, the two sides are there, and the police guys read out the charge and said, this is what happened. And the judge looked at it and looked at this guy, didn't he didn't ask any questions from him. Judge realized that this guy was right. And the judge said, this case is dismissed. Sir, you can go. That guy came out and he was so unhappy. He was so unhappy because he said, it's not fair that I was treated like this on the road, and the judge didn't want to ask my side of the story. Even the judgment came in my favor, I don't care, but I want to be heard. So sometimes it's not the result. People want the process to be fair. I think this is a very, very important lesson for us. We sometimes think, you know what? I gave you the salary increase. No, but the thing is, the process of doing it is what people are worried about. Sometimes you can give a people a salary cut. They will not be worried about it so long the process of doing it is fair. So this fairness is a very important principle in change management. In your assignment, look for whether it was considered fair the way it was handled, right? So there are some tactics to manage resistance in change. I will not go through that. Then there is a PDCA cycle, plan, do, check, act. I will not go through that. And if we were in the class, we could have done a nice exercise, and look like this. But now we don't have the chance to do it, right? So, so that's what we have for today. And how does this relate to our assignment, right? Uh, Let me go to that. Uh, Yeah, part two, guidance notes. Do you now see that we did this ending, neutral zone, and beginning? And what type of emotions are there in the ending, and what type of emotions are there in the beginnings, and then the unpredictable and the very confused state people are in the neutral zone. One thing is the neutral zone has to be minimized. That's one. Second thing is it has to be managed. If you don't have these two, if the neutral zone is prolonged and if this is not managed, this can be a very bad change process for the company. And if you look at this diagram when you have time, look at what people feel during this time. This is what needs to be addressed, and most of the time change fails and change doesn't take a proper correction path, right? So when you look at this need for change we discussed today, triggers, causes of change, right? What if you don't do it? What will happen? What is the change? Who are the stakeholders? What are the mechanics? What are the plan that they used? What happened, right? Try to link to theory. Did they use this Bridges model, or is there any resemblance to Kurt Lewin, or is there any resemblance to Cotter? Levin, Cotter, Bridges. Look at these. Look at these changes, and talk about the real emotions, the fairness, how it was handled. Now, we sent 81 people out. Not a single guy has called and complained about the fairness, right? So, so the fairness is a very important aspect. Okay, we have 10 minutes to ask any question about today's session, uh, and also about the assignment if you have. Okay, anything you can give your thoughts and ideas. You can tell me how working from home is happening.
Actually, sometimes when change is needed,
Yeah,
you can't organically change. You have to parachute people in with different talents.
yeah,
There's a lot of resistance when it comes to that.
yes.
How do you manage the situation like that?
uh, One is that when you parachute people, and that whole word parachute itself, uh, people resist because they don't know why uh, why it is happening. So what people are going through is the emotions of what are these people going to do? What will happen to me? What's in it for me? Will I lose my job? Will I? That's the resistance that people come with. So in terms of communication, because now people have entered the neutral zone, confused, right? How do you manage that with communication? How do you manage that with change, or explaining to people this is why it's happening? But sometimes when you discuss change in a crisis like today, you might have to take people through a lot of coercion or dictate the change. There is no time to educate people, no time to get their buying in. But sometimes, uh, when you bring people from outside, this is where consultants play a role sometimes, uh, where people like to hear something from an outsider than the people inside, because they think the outsiders have unbiased opinion and they don't have vested interest in the company. So they tend to listen to outsiders more. But what I have seen is change is all about communication and telling people what you're doing. Yeah.
Thank you.
Do you like the video on monkeys?
Yes, Dusty, we like the video.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
Sadhu thinks it's cute.
Okay. That's a different expression. Yeah, that's a very nice expression.
It is.
And Dusty, do you have any beer left?
Yes, I have some beer left, and I treat it like medicine. And I take it off the fridge and see whether there is anyone around, and then I have my beer. It's like medicine now these days.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I forget the taste of it.
Oh, okay. I can tell you how it tastes in a text message. How it is, tasting in your mouth, some chilled beer.
No, it's all right, Dusty.
Okay, yeah.
That's fine. That's fine.
That's why.
But guys, I think get ready for this till about mid-April. If something happens before that, it's better. Very nice. But
April 20th, roughly, Dusty, is the plan right now.
that's what I hear too. Yeah, we asked them. They say it's still not essential. That's the problem. Otherwise, I get so many calls asking for beer. But if beer was delivered, people would have been a little bit more happy, right? More harmony at home, less trouble with the spouse and the spice, whatever. Guys, any questions? How are you guys doing with the 2 assignments? Can help you guys out, give
Yes,
some
sent you
feedback.
the part 1 actually. If you could please go through and give a feedback.
Okay, I think you sent it to me, right? On email.
Email and WhatsApp both.
Okay. So I'll look at it. But just that when you're sending it for feedback, I will give feedback only once on a draft. So send me a more complete draft so I can give you some feedback on that. Or alternatively, you can set up a time, call me, and then we can have a discussion about your entire both assignments. I think last week we chatted with 3 groups of people and we cleared all their assignments and the ways of working. Yeah, Tanuja, it's more than profits. It's a real social service now, right? Isn't it? It's the social liquid, right? Beer is social liquid. That's how the society runs.
Yeah, the women doesn't understand that. That's true.
Yeah. It's the social lubricant. It's the liquid gold, right? Social lubricant. Yeah, any other questions? Okay, guys. If you don't have any questions, this room is the one that is between me and my beer now. So if there are no questions, the video, okay. We will call it a day. I think next week also we'll have the Zoom session. But the good thing is we are really making progress with all our classes uninterrupted. And let's go through this and submit the assignments. We'll give you a little bit of extra support for sure for you to complete the assignments.
Thank you, Dusty.
Yeah. But engage early and then let's work this through.
Thank you, Dusty.
Stay safe and sane.
Thank you, Dusty.
Right? Yeah, very, very important. Don't pull your hair out. Be sane. All right, guys. Cheers to everyone. Happy
Thank you.
Sunday. Bye.